Welcome to Red Alert 3 once again. Quite a bit of Red Alert 3 recently, or maybe it's just me, but I love it. And as the orange allies on the left side of Infinity Isle, we do have Zokker13, which I don't know how to pronounce the name, but on the forums it was Zokker13, so I'll go with that because that's so much easier. And Loony, alias Loony, going to be on the right side of Infinity Isle, for playing as the Cyan Empire, as you probably can tell. But if you can't, there you go. Cyan and the Empire of the Rising Sun will be his faction. If you're new to this whole thing, and is the dog going to get crushed by those cores, those dojo cores? And it does look like we have 3 dojo cores followed up by, 2 refineries, and then he is going to be moving his MCV most likely to the middle ground for that early expansion, for that. Well, actually, it's not on this map. It's not an early third. And even throwing down those walls, despite the fact that Tengus can get around them quite easily, and also despite the fact that there's no terror drones. Because terror drones will wreck your world. And I never see them wrecking people's worlds in pro games, but whenever I play, because I always forget to wall in my refineries, I always get everything terror droned all the time. And actually a pretty early Apollo not going for that Vindicators, which Vindicators usually more of the choice for early, damage output, but not going to be the choice on a ridiculous amount of infantry. So both of these games, quite a high amount of infantry from both of these players. Going to be, actually, I guess Loony is going to be leading the charge with this, and he does have quite a few Imperial Warriors, and he can do quite a bit of damage if Zokker is not careful. He will do massive amounts of damage, but most likely just going to go for that oil derrick, and I can't imagine Zokker will take too much more damage than that from these early infantry. And look at how fast they shoot down an oil derrick. Of course, oil derricks don't have very much health or armor, but going to be leaving it just a little bit. And is he going to finish it off right there? Somersault of only 1 Imperial Warrior, and then he just falls down. So it's always hilarious to watch the physics in this game as they try to work, but they really just don't work most of the time. But Riptide's coming out of the seaport, going to be able to do quite a bit of damage to this army. Oh, how quickly they take down even an airfield when it's this many Imperial Warriors, and he just doesn't have the Peacekeepers to handle this. So Zokker, what is he going to do? How is he going to overcome this? And what is going to be the solution? Apollo's going to be pretty good, but splitting up, using that Imperial charge, that bonsai charge, to take his Imperial Warriors away from danger, but taking quite a lot of damage from those Riptides. So that's a pretty devastating mistake. Well, not really a mistake, just a circumstance that he can't overcome. He did load quite a few of the Imperial Warriors into the civilian structure, and they were using their swords. They were using their little lightsabers when they got into that structure, which means they would be stuck without any ability to attack anything. And actually, a couple of Jet Tengus going to be showing up. Is it going to be enough to take the Apollos? It doesn't even matter, but can the Vindicator be microed enough from Zokker to take down 3 of these? 3, or is there only going to be 2 bombs out of this Vindicator? What in the world is it going to be doing? But only 1 bomb being used there, so good micro from Zokker, and the Tengus are going to get taken out, I can only imagine, by these units, and the Peacekeepers going to be showing up. And if they can get up close and personal with these Imperial Warriors, they should be able to clean them up with the help of this Riptide. But it does look like he should have switched one of those to that secondary ability, using that Riot Shield. Able to take down the airfield is a pretty big deal, but the Riptide filled with 4 Peacekeepers going to be able to do some damage to this power plant, although is that what they should be attacking since they're getting shot up by those Tengus? And this attack did get cleaned up, but at what cost? 2 airfields did go down. He lost the old Eric, he lost quite a few units, a couple of Riptides, quite a few Peacekeepers, and had to rebuild that airfield a 3rd time, losing only a power plant and some Jet Tengus going to be going down. These Apollos, of course, far more powerful in the air-to-air battles than those Jet Tengus. You need quite a few Jet Tengus to overcome just a few Apollos. They can hold their own, and just a dog chilling up there in the water, which doesn't look quite as good as it used to, but on the plus side, we do have increased frame rates. So that's always fun. No longer are we going to have as big of lag spikes happening. And the single Vindicator going to be heading out, and depending on how well it's microed, it could be absolutely devastating in combination with, I'm assuming, a Cryocopter will be coming out at some point. because allies without cryocopters just doesn't really happen. I can't really think of too many allied games where cryocopters weren't used. It's kind of like not building jet Tengus. It's such a useful unit in so many situations that you just can't imagine not using it. And actually, garrisoning that civilian structure so he knows what's going on. Looney's like, oh hey, you're heading over there, I guess I'll turn my army over there and bring it there so I can hold you off, do some damage, and block you. But it does look like Peacekeeper's going to be hopping on out of here to do some damage to that civilian structure, which, you know, going to be able to clean it out eventually, especially with a constant stream, but switching them over to their secondary ability and then heading into that structure, kicking out both of those Imperial Warriors, denying that scouting information, which was very useful and allowed Looney to know about that attack and moving his dog over here. So he says, hey, if you want to expand here, you're going to have to let me know about it first, because I am not your father, but I still don't want you expanding there. That was kind of a stretch of a reference, but I don't think anyone got it either. Not that it was really a reference, it was only kind of a reference. Far too confusing, thinking about that way too much, but the point defense drones are going to give some extra life to these units, and that Riptide really needs to get healed up, but he isn't going to have the opportunity, and that multi-gunner turret, will it actually see use in this game? And the cryo shot is going to be the name of the game, and actually the Tengu is going to be able to do some damage to that Vindicator, and then switching over so that they can't get taken out by it. But the cryo shot not going to be enough to take down that ore collector, I guess. And I'm throwing down the armor facility, bringing out some Guardian tanks. I can only imagine will be the next step. Guardian tanks, of course, pretty good in most situations, of course, and especially versus the Tsunami tanks, but going to be throwing down a multi-gunner turret and still using this one. So that one's not really doing anything. Hasn't really been doing anything, but the economy of Zokker is also going to be stronger than Looney's by at least a little bit. Of course, Looney does have that oil derrick over here, but that is not nearly the same amount of money as a single expansion. And if Zokker, Looney did, actually I'm not sure who did more damage in the early game. I want to say Looney, that would be like my gut reaction, would be saying Looney did more damage. But without actually being able to think back and fully analyze all of the attacks, I'm not sure, because both players did do some damage, and I want to say Looney did more, but I'm not sure. So we have aircraft going for that 3 Apollos, 1 Vindicator combo, and a couple of cryocopters wouldn't hurt, but he's worried more about his damage output, and the laser painter from this Guardian tank absolutely doing nothing, because nothing is shooting that target that it is painting, and it is not doing any damage, so that is going to be a mistake, and getting completely overrun. Zokker, what is he going to be doing? He is going to be doing some damage over here, and actually this base is completely, wholly undefended, except for a single Imperial Warrior, and of course those ore collectors can turn around and turn their guns into, or turn their hold into doing some damage, and actually not paying attention to his army, but running over that Peacekeeper anyways, going to be negating the damage it was doing to that Striker VX, although truly not negating. And if this MZV can do some serious damage with with the cryo shot as well, that would be absolutely huge. 3 units getting locked up by that, and another unit going down up there. But could this entire attack be foiled? I'm not sure. The Striker VX is getting caught completely out of position, not taking any damage though, so good thing for Looney, and Looney taking some damage over here, although chasing that off. Where did it go? Heading, I guess it got crushed, got taken out, but going to be painting these Striker VXs, so he knows that they're there. But will he be able to do anything about it? And setting up the MCV, I'm assuming, for some repairs to happen, but not actually going to be happening. And the multi-gunner turret is going to be distracted by those Tsunami tanks and not going to be doing damage to the Striker VXs that are actually killing it. And here comes the Vindicator to drop some bombs, taking out 2 Tsunami tanks. So good move by Zokker there. He is managing to hold on despite the huge attack out of Looney there, which Looney, his units did get separated and he wasn't doing the most damage that he could have, but overall fairly successful. Going to be throwing down another generator, so actually I guess he was out of power because of that one that went down over here. which ended up being a lot more useful than I would have thought. That Zokker was able to do that, and even stopping that harassment early on. Needs to start repairing some of these buildings, at least repair the multi-gunner turret so that it can be of use again without getting totally eliminated. But oh, getting ballsy with this multi-gunner turret. I don't know if that's a good idea, just because it will go down quite quickly to these tsunami tanks being that close, and the MCV actually does take quite a bit of damage, but the tsunami tanks rushing in here, using their nano machines to tank some of that damage and then run over all of the javelin troopers, or just about all of them. Pretty good micro out of Loony, although he is just singly controlling all of these units, so not crazy micro, but the 3 barracks going to be doing quite a bit of damage. Never mind, 4 barracks with so many javelin troopers not even bothering to reproduce that armor facility or build any more aircraft, just going to be having his... And actually that one multi-gunner turret did way more damage than I was expecting it to, and lasted quite a bit longer, selling off power planes and then rebuilding them immediately, selling off barracks to get more money for more multi-gunner turrets. So pretty good defense out of Zokker, just making it work with this ragtag team of crazy units. Going to be, oh no, there I go, getting back into the use of the word crazy, which I feel like I used my year's worth of that word in like 2 games earlier. And the cryo shot, will it be good enough? Yes, it most definitely will. Are there any bombs left though? I don't know. I guess that Vindicator was like, all right, I'll see you later. I'm just gonna chill over here and not do anything about that ore collector, which I guess since, I mean, the ore collector won't really do anything without a refinery, and since the refinery got sold off, not a whole that Vindicator to do, so maybe he's best served somewhere else. But once again, switching these over to their defensive mode to run over these units. Nope, just going to skate on by and see if they can do some damage in the back of the base, like to this airbase, which is really what has been hurting Zokker, or not Zokker, but Loony's economy. Unless he's going to be going for this expansion back here, but I don't even think he knows that exists, and selling it off early, not able to get that full refund, but now they're going to be heading out to the expansion, which will cut off the basic, I don't want to say the single advantage that Zokker had, but definitely the biggest advantage that Zokker had, or one of the biggest advantages that Zokker had, was having that one more expansion than his opponent, and then of course being able to do that damage. Although it was fairly infrequent, the amount of damage that he was doing, he was still able to force reproduction of some, actually I don't know if he had to actually force any reproduction of harvesters, but at least force the sell-off of that refinery and slow that ore harvesting down quite a bit, which just furthered his economic lead, and now he's going to have to rebuild that ore refinery if he wants to stay ahead of the game. Stay ahead in the game and of the competition, but getting a little bit smart. Loony going to be heading around the side instead of just attacking straight on where now all of the defense is, and with all of those barracks, which really that just mass amount of javelin troopers, and forcing Loony to just run around trying to run over the javelin troopers while taking damage from the multi-gunner turrets. Would there have been a better way to do that? I'm not sure, as even that was a bit too much for me. But this single ore collector, not really doing anything, going to be trying to harvest ore and add it to this ore refinery, but I don't know if that's actually any more efficient than just having that one ore collector, because then it kind of messes up the mining path of that other ore collector. So does it really do any good? I do not know. Maybe a slight amount of good, but not a whole lot if it does do any good. But this game going to be heading into a bit of a lull, and actually with the Apollos here chasing away those jet Tengus, not able to chase them down because the Striker VX is proving to be a bit too much for that unit. And then the Apollo's going to be over here saying, hey guys, what's up? We're going to shoot you in the face with our dual guns. And the Vindicator not able to get the strike, but the cryocopters are now out, making this game another game with allied cryocopters in the eye. I'm assuming this MCV is going to be heading back here for that expansion. He's got enough money to do it, I'm assuming. I do a lot of assuming in these games, but alias Loony low on money, and it does look like Kazdertarsh. I'm totally slaughtering that name, but Zokker, yeah, get out of here fast forward. Zokker going to be re-expanding. He does have 1,000 credits, which he is not pumping that into his army, so it's important that he does pump that into his economy to pump it into his army later, if he's not pumping it into his army right now. But Loony, once again, does not know about this, which that was a very big mistake out of Loony. I would say just the lack of scouting, because this dog So Zokker knows. He's got vision of this over here. He doesn't have vision of this, so he doesn't know, although that is an awkward expansion to take just because the travel distance is so far to get to it, and it's one of those expansions that's just not taken very often by players. But on the other hand, this dog is like, hey, I know what's happening over here. If you want to take this expansion, you're either going to have to let me know about it or kill the dog beforehand, which then tells me, oh, he's probably expanding there. And these sneaky attacks around the side with the Riptides, although that's not what this is, those have been pretty useful for this entire game, and actually not going to be doing a whole lot of economic damage in this attack. But he saw, hey, there's Striker VXs heading over here. I should probably get out of here and make sure that I don't get taken out by those Striker VXs. And the dog's still sitting over here chilling, maxing, relaxing, all cool. Like, I probably say that too much as well. But the Guardian tank's going to be coming out in fair numbers, not mass amounts of numbers, or not mass amounts of Guardian tanks, but enough to make a difference and enough to really put the hurt on Loony. Loony, can he hold this off, or will this be enough? Wait, where are all of there? Okay, I was going to say, well, I did not miss that, because he has quite a few tsunami tanks, and this could be the big battle that decides the game, and the cryocopters will be absolutely important, but they're getting chased off by the Striker VXs, and then they transform to do massive amounts of damage to these tanks. And the cryo shot, will it be good enough? No, it will do almost nothing right there, but the Apollo is going to be showing up to do some damage. The point defense drone is going to be too powerful, and using all of the tsunami tanks just to take some damage and then start dealing the damage right now as those nanomachines die and no longer defend the tanks. But switching back over to the Striker VX mode, losing way more tanks than I would have thought. Loony not able to push forward and finish the job, as this game is going to be moving on quite a bit further, and still production of the tsunami tanks is going to be in at least full swing, producing them one at a time. I guess that's full swing for a single mecha bay. And the single ore collector still trying to do the long distance relationship. He's trying to make it work. He's trying oh so hard. All he wants to do is have a peaceful mining life, unless he's shooting stuff with his alternate weapon. But grabbing that extra Javelin Trooper into that multi-gunner IFV to help him escape. Of course, that is, I believe, a fully heroic Javelin Trooper. Yep, right there, going to have that star. He is a one-star general, but still fighting on the front lines because he is just too good to quit, and deciding to go all the way around, which is an interesting choice instead of just, going that way. Slightly faster route, but the pathing in Red Alert 3 has never been very good, and the strike force of Striker VXs and Jet Tengu is going to be not moving out, I guess, because the Cryocopter Apollo combo is going to be enough to bring them back home. And then the IFVs, he's trying to do this multi-pronged attack where he's able to counter Loony no matter what he does with this Striker VX Jet Tengu combo. So he's got the Apollos in the air to keep the Cryocopters safe, because they do very well versus the Jet Tengus. But then, if the Striker VXs are in the air, then they can get shot up by the Apollos, plus they're not doing any damage. But then, if they switched it over to the ground, then he brings in the IFVs to do damage to them while they're on the ground, and also to join in the fight when they're done and fight the Jet Tengus. But the Apollo's going to swoop in and spot this whole army, say, hey, we see you. You're not very sneaky, Loony. We know what's going on. IFV's not able to make something happen. I'm guessing he's going to be pulling them back to help deal with this army. Going to be almost out of ore right there, and the IFVs show up. They're going to get hugely overpowered if they do not stick together, and actually we really need some Guardian tanks. Too bad there aren't any. Shrinking down a couple of these tsunami tanks will help with the effort, but it's not going to be enough. He's going to need some hard-hitting units to really deal this damage, and instead he's just going to lose this expansion, putting him back. Actually, still, he'll be ahead by one expansion from Loony, and Loony just not doing very good on the economy this game, only with these only with 2 ore collectors at this point, 2 ore refineries and 3 ore collectors. He is going to not be going, I'm assuming he's going to keep pushing through this base, and at some point, these IFVs are going to have to make their stand, make their move, but going to be backing up and waiting for the Javelin Troopers. 2-3 Javelin Troopers will be able to do some more damage, and needs to bring these over here, pushing his numbers up to 7-8 Javelin Troopers for this engagement, because Zokker is going to need every unit he can muster to try and best these tanks, and getting the point defense drones, that's what he was waiting for. He's trying to get the massive coverage and splitting up his units so that they do not get crushed quite as quickly. and also to, you know, just spread that out. And, oh, the Emperor's Rage going to be enough, but you want to get the Concave, which is exactly what Loony has got, and Zokker on the other end not getting the Concave and attacking the units that aren't doing any damage is not the best choice in this situation, especially when you've got units on the front line tearing you apart. But of course, these units do move slower now that they're now that they have the Emperor's Rage, but going to be transforming into Jet Tengus and just flying by, taking a whole bunch of damage, and now they're going to turn around and shred those Apollos with that Emperor's Rage. I think this may be it for Zokker, although he has held off these attacks before, and this may not be it, although it might be it. It's so hard to tell with some of these games. You think that they're going to be over, and then bam, one of the players comes back with some sort of crazy attack and saves the day, and you're like, yeah! But is he going to do this thing where he drops down? No, he folded up his MCV, so he's not going to be able to drop down all of these barracks again and make it work like he did last time with those 4 barracks and another group of tsunami tanks. But are they going to get crushed? 1 and 2, 3 will get crushed, and oh, a lot of damage out from that MCV, but is it going to be enough tsunami tanks, Tengus, and strikers to deal the damage he needs? He's going to be setting up his MCV again, throwing or selling off that airfield, but he just doesn't have a whole lot of economy left. Actually, economy still's going to be ahead of Loony. Loony not doing too good on the economy this game. He's been doing not too shabby in some other ways, but the economy has just sucked almost this whole game, and I can't wait to see that resource graph, and then it'll turn out that actually Loony had a base that I didn't even know about this whole time, and so it's like, throwing out the power plant on the water. I remember doing that in some friendly games with some friends of mine, just throwing it out there because I knew I was going to lose, just to annoy them a little bit, even in defeat. And that is what Loony is going to be doing, a little bit of an insurance policy, although not really, because of power plant. I mean, it's just, then it becomes this search and destroy sort of setting where your opponent has got the money, they've got the units, they can totally take you out, they just have to find you, and you're just like, ha ha, I got my power plant on the water, and oh, by the way, I also have 47 Shoguns, so have fun with that. Just now re-expanding, he's like, oh, I guess I do kind of need to re-expand. He could even use this ore collector to head out and then kill this dog so that he could expand there as well, but like I said, Zokker able to still hold on. He's able to make it work somehow. I keep thinking, like, oh, this is going to be the end of Zokker, and then Zokker's like, oh, no, I'm not. I'm not dead yet. And that's how he sounds, I can tell. He kind of sounds like Louis Armstrong, although a horrible impression of Louis Armstrong. Sorry, Zokker. But re-expanding once more, taking that 3rd base, I guess, for him, which I guess it was his 3rd base anyway, so retaking that 3rd base and immediately getting taken out by these Tengu, transforming right there and getting the sell-off. That's one of the things. Zokker has been on top of these sell-offs. He almost knows exactly what building to sell off, exactly when to get the most money out of it. Some players, they try and, like, sell off early to, get their money out, and then they end up, like, the units just go right past that building. They're like, okay, we'll go take out this building over here, and then they have to sell off 4 times as many buildings as they actually needed to. But Zokker, it seems, I don't think I've seen any sell-offs where it's like, oh, that was a big mistake to sell off your MCV right then. But, I could be wrong. However, Loony, it looks like he's going to be not really rebuilding, but taking another expansion, which he desperately needs. He's been able to hold on to this Mecha Bay the whole game, which is, of course, very important. Not having to rebuild that, like an armor facility, for example, is very big, and these couple of Imperial Warriors like, hey, yeah, we see the IFVs, we're even going to take some pot shots, but these Jet Tengus need to be taken care of, and oh, hey, they spot the MCV, they know he's probably going for another expansion or another refinery to try and get his economy back on track with Loony's, because Loony does now have those 3 bases, so going to be getting his economy back on track, or as close as it can be. But once again, these expansions are quite vulnerable, and this one is a little more protected, but this one is only protected a little bit by that one multi-gunner turret that's been there the whole game, and I don't think anything died. I think those were just point defense drones. I do not see any other point defense drones on the army, so that's very possible that is what happened. The point defense drones do time out after a while. The Riptide going to be cleaning up these early infantry, shooting them without mercy, and it does look like these tsunami tanks were spotted, so the IFVs will be here to meet them with open missile launcher arms, although it's not really going to matter because 4 IFVs versus this many tsunami tanks, that is just a pretty cool power move right there. You just fold on out of the water and then say, hey, we're going to shoot that Peacekeeper. But they're like, hey, we're going to pull out of this water, and then all of a sudden, all of the IFVs pull back, and the cryo shot just takes a bit too long to get ready. And taking quite a bit of damage from these Javelin Troopers. Are they going to have enough to run them over? I think they will. And once again, Zokker getting cleaned up on land, but is it going to be enough to really take him out of the game? Yes, he lost his MCV that time, and yes, he's only got one mining operation right now, but he did lose, you know, a whole bunch of stuff, and selling off his barracks as well puts him a little bit further behind, and this may be it for Zokker, but Loony putting up one heck of a fight, and actually finally taking that expansion, although Zokker knows about it, and at this point, looks like Loony is probably going to have won that game, just suddenly end, which could have been a desync, and also could have been a disconnect. We don't want to point any fingers, but I think Loony was probably going to win that one. Let's take a look at that resource graph. That is what I wanted to see. Zokker owning on the resources. Loony was ahead at first, able to expand fairly early, or at least a little bit easier, especially with the oil derricks, able to expand a little bit easier, doing some damage early on, but then able to bring it out in the end as well, although not able to ever overcome Zokker in that resource graph. Zokker just crushing the resources, which really allowed him to hold on versus those bigger groups of army, and also Loony's micro wasn't always the best at times, but these two players giving us a pretty exciting game. That is going to be it for this time. This is Sybert signing out.